Hey, thanks for stopping by the guitar shop again. Today we have fairly rare, I think, guitar. It's a Gibson Les Paul. I think it's called a Voodoo. It reminds me a lot of some Goth guitars I've seen. This one here is a 2004 and it's in really good condition. Whoever had it didn't play it much, but they were a little bit rough with it. It's got some belt buckle rash and stuff. Nothing that makes it less cool of a guitar. Something that just gives it a little bit of personality. So, yeah, it's just here for our setup today. So we're gonna restring, do a cleanup, set her for drop C. Change out some strap buttons. So, I guess let's get started. Tiny bit of fret wear, but nothing worth addressing. Just a little bit visible that somebody has played it some, and that most likely they weren't much of a shredder. I just love ebony fingerboards. And this one was fairly clean. Even the Gibson logo is red. Based on the red details, I think probably these pickups are stock. Some kind of special edition. Tempted to have a look under the hood. Paint was pretty clean too. So what do you say, Rudy? Should we look under the pickups? Yeah, I think so too. Just a quick peek. This is coming in. Can that camera see where it says Gibson? They are stock pickups. Two conductor wire. Very cool. So we know for sure there's no coil tapping. It's not soaking up the oil too fast, so looks like it's fairly well hydrated. Alright, let's go through that knot again, huh? So, you get your how much string you need, about 3 fingers past the tuner you're going to. Feed the string into the hole up to the mark that you made. Pull the tag end around, keep it tight to the post underneath the part you're keeping. Push the part you're keeping to the front of the hole, pick up, push down, the knot is tied. So, in the hole, up to the mark, come around the post backwards, go underneath, push to the front, and pick up and push down. It's kind of hard to explain how to tie that knot, but once you get the hang of it, it's really fast. Let's do one at full speed with no explanation. Just like that. Sounds like the battery's dying in my winder. If you pick up nothing else from this channel, that thing will save you a lot of heartache on stretching strings. A lot of times the string's not stretching, it's slipping in the windings on the post. So bring her up to pitch real quick. Stretch strings a bit. One more time. The ring's pretty nice. It didn't change the neck adjustment too much, but it did a little bit. Go ahead and tighten her up just a hair. Go ahead and dial in the nut slots right quick. Nut feels like it's probably graphite. File just slides right off it. Gee, it was quite high. If you get brave enough to make these adjustments, the angle you're filing the slot at is very important. You want the string to be able to have a good break angle off a fairly flat shelf so it can vibrate freely. When you're making a big change to the gauges like we're doing here, you need to be on guard that sometimes the nut slot is deep enough, it's just not wide enough. So you need to start by making sure it's wide enough without deepening it. Because if it's already deep enough but it's not wide enough, so the string's not sitting at the bottom of it, and then you make it wider and deeper, but it was already deep enough, and that's a recipe for having to buy a customer a new nut. Which is a really sticky wicket on a guitar like this, where clearly that's the factory nut and it's never been out of place before. This strikes me as the kind of a limited number guitar that may appreciate. I don't want to be the guy who took the original nut out of it. Or, well, I'm okay with being the guy who took the original nut out of it, as long as I'm not the guy who goofed up and made the original nut unplayable. Check real often to see how your progress is going. Especially if it's a piece of bone. Bone's not usually the same density all the way across and all the way through. If your file's not biting at first and you get heavy-handed with it, and then you get into a softer area where the file just runs right through it. Yeah. I prefer these kind of man-made materials unless there's some good reason, like historical accuracy or something like that you need a bone nut. Acoustic guitars maybe, but yeah, most electric guitars I'm a big fan of graphite or tusk or some kind of stuff like that. Nope. Now let's take the neck back out of that back bow I put in there. Action at 12 is kind of like 5/64. Rocking right along. So, I guess let's intonate real quick. See if the strobe cam wants to cooperate again today. Did pretty good yesterday. A little sharp. That's a little flat. Here's a little sharp. Let's try that. Here's a tiny bit flat. Good thing it wasn't sharp. It's almost out of adjustment range. Much closer. I like to start by setting the outside strings, because they're usually the same note. On this guitar, they're not going to wind up being the same note. So I may wind up having to undo some of this adjustment I'm doing here now after I make this D string a C. But I kind of have an eyeball for how it should look when it is correctly in tune. After I have 4 of them, I can make a pretty good guess at the other 2. For example, both E's, the D and the G, I can make a pretty good guess about B and A. Oh, the D string will be a C string, huh? That's pretty well dead on. And then the D string would be a F. No, D we just did. G string's a F. F is the next one I needed, but it's not the D string. Just a hair flat. Guess so. It's at the max of its adjustment, well, near the max of its adjustment range too. But it was really close. You have to be really careful with your finger pressure when you're setting this intonation. See, there's the open in tune. Here's the 12th fret. Showing just barely sharp. Or barely. Open string shows in tune. 12th fret float shows just barely flat. But just by pushing harder, I can send it way sharp. So naturally it's best to make the adjustment with the slightest finger pressure that's possible. I guess you could make an argument in favor of using whatever finger pressure that you naturally use, but I think using the lightest finger pressure possible is best. And then if you're just one of those guys that crushes too hard, well, stop. Don't do that. It hurts when I do that. Well, stop doing that. Oh, and I've seen a lot of guys on YouTube setting the intonation and then checking it down here. Look at how far sharp that string has gone in this position. Oh, well, it's sharp in both positions. See how that throws the adjustment off? Now, the argument, can you hear that? That sounds like a reasonable argument to me. It may not be a big enough difference for you to be able to hear it. It may not be a big enough difference for your snark to be able to hear it. That seems to me like a stronger argument to not use the snark. They're okay. I don't have a problem with snarks. But it's not what I would set my intonation with. Especially not like in a church band or something where you're going to have to play next to an actual piano. I don't think there's a lot of likelihood this particular guitar is going to be playing in the church band, but just saying. Overshot just a hair. So what do you say? Shall we give it a listen? Yeah, I think so too. Got a lot of low end response from that treble pickup. Yeah, it plays like a Les Paul, huh? Les Paul. I'm digging it. Get rid of that buzzing sound. Let's button her up. Change out the strap buttons. Clean it up. Get my fingerprints off of it. Probably should have done all of this and saved the jamming out for the outro of the video, huh? Just kind of looking end-to-end screens the other day. May have that figured out by the time this video comes up. Maybe I should just be jamming along on the guitar as the end screen pops up. But I guess if I end the video by jamming out, I can't say, thanks for watching. Which, seriously, thanks for watching. If you learned something, if you liked the content, if you think, even if you just think the content is starting to improve, then give me a thumbs up, man. I could sure use a few of them. You probably wouldn't believe how much it makes, how much it thrills, how much difference it makes for the guy who spent all the time making the video. Just that simple one little click. Yeah, all good reasons for a thumbs up. And I guess give me a thumbs down if you think this guitar should be played in the church band. No.